Couldn't attend VRLA 2018? I was there for you and got a bunch of great interviews with VR developers, so let's get to it. You are listening to the How to Create VR podcast, weekly conversations with VR professional creators, designers, and producers. Hello and welcome to another episode of the How to Create VR podcast, where I speak with professional creators, designers, developers, and producers who work on VR, AR, and MR projects. I'm your host, Marcelo Lewin, founder of HowToCreateVR.com, your go-to source for VR education. This episode is a bit different than my regular ones. On May 4th and 5th, I attended the VRLA 2018 conference. This was my first time visiting this conference, and it did not disappoint. Friday was focused more on professionals in the industry, so it was definitely a bit more chill, and it was a great opportunity to chat with people without a lot of that typical noise you find in other conferences. Saturday was open to the public, and it was definitely busier. I was able to try out some great VR experiences, connect with people that are truly passionate about VR just like I am, make new friends, and connect with old friends. I was also able to get more interviews for future episodes, and some great presenters for my meetup. Overall, I highly recommend this conference if you are serious about VR, AR, MR, and XR. What follows are 8 interviews with VR developers, including Lazlo Ring from Ultrahaptics, Vivian Tan from Beastink, Lesley Klassen from Flipslide VR, Cosmo Sharf, the co-founder of VRLA and Mindshow, Scott Martin from VR Planet X, Jason Briggs from Mecha Mayhem, Ahsley Cooper and Brady Wright from Rave and Peter Funkuchen from Prosper XR. You are in for a treat, so let's get to the interviews. I'm here with Lazlo Ring from Ultrahaptics, right?
Yep.
All right, so I just tried it out. It was pretty cool. It's maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So we're Ultrahaptics. We do mid-air haptic feedback. So the general idea is that we have our arrays that you can set up into space, and then as you put your hand over it, you'll get the haptic sensation to it without having to put gloves or any other peripherals on yourself.
Got it. So this is obviously an audio podcast, so people can't see this stuff, but it's like this rectangle box that you put in front of the computer or in front of whatever you're going to attach it to. And so there's an SDK for this that you program against?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have kind of 3 SDKs available right now. So we have a C++ SDK.
Okay.
We have what we call the sensation editor, which they can't see over here, but you can see. Which is pretty much just some basic templates.
So this is an application that runs in Windows. I don't know if it runs on Mac.
Well, it's on Mac right now,
Oh, this is Mac, sorry. It runs on Mac. Does it run in Windows too?
Yes.
Okay, so it runs on Mac
and so
and
this
Windows.
allows you to just export kind of basic templates that we have already built out for you, so circles, spheres, dials, stuff like that.
Okay.
And C++ gives you obviously much more control, where you can just kind of control the points in space and where you put it.
When you create your templates, you export it into what?
Into a format that you can load into the C++ SDK, for example.
I see.
So that's kind of if you want to have a pre-programmed template.
I understand. Right. Yep. Now you said there's one for C++, so we covered that. Yep. Now you said there's 2 more. I'm imagining.
So there's the sensation editor is kind of the other part of that, and then later this year we're releasing a Unity SDK that we're currently beta testing.
I see.
Yep.
Okay, so right now it's not compatible with Unity yet.
So internally it is, just externally we haven't released it yet.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Any plans for WebVR, WebXR? Are you guys even looking at that?
So that's kind of farther down the line. So right now our pipeline is more the C++ stuff, then the Unity, then probably Unreal, and then later on after that.
And the haptics, I mean, it's ultrasound waves, is that what it is?
Yep.
Maybe you can expand a little bit on how that works.
Sure. So if you kind of imagine there's a large array of speakers that are sitting on top of the board, and what they do is they're all working together to create focal points, is what you're actually feeling as the haptic experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're literally programming those haptic experiences.
Exactly. So you're just telling kind of where you want that focal point to move around, and that's what you're feeling.
I see. I know you have this app that gives you templates. Are there templates for games? Are you working with games at all, like game companies?
So we aren't working directly with any game companies. However, we have worked with IGT, which is a casino company over there.
Okay.
And they've actually integrated some of their casino machines in what they're calling a 4D experience.
I see.
So what they do is they have glasses for 3D in the center, and then they have our arrays at the top and the bottom of the board angled around the screen. and then you can stick your hands out and you can actually feel the things in midair. So you can feel the butterflies and the coins and stuff like that.
That makes sense. Okay, cool. So you're really focused more on the B2B market, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Lazlo, if people want to find out more about how to integrate this into the projects, where should they go?
So they should go to ultrahaptics.com, and we have a link to our developer documents there.
Okay.
And they can find out the rest.
We'll put it on our show notes.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Lazlo.
Thank
Great to
you.
meet you. All right, I'm here with Vivian Tan from Beast Inc., and you guys created a very cool game, right? It's a game or a VR experience? What would you consider it?
It's a bit of both. Our ultimate goal is to create autonomous, intelligent pet companions for XR. So what you're seeing today at VRLA is our first sandbox experience. It's like going to a dog park, but instead of meeting dogs, you get to pet baby dragons.
Right, okay. Now you said for an XR experience, so that means this is a VR experience right now.
Mm-hmm.
So your ultimate goal is to go from VR to AR and mobile devices and whatever? Is that your ultimate goal?
Our ultimate goal is for us to be able to transport you into the dragon's world and bring the dragons into ours. So we'll be using both VR and AR technology for that.
Right. And you're tackling all devices, I'm assuming.
So for now, the experience you're seeing today works on the HTC Vive because we wanted to take advantage of room scale for you to be really immersed in the world and be able to pet the dragons. In the future, we're looking at more standalone VR devices, also mobile AR, and of course AR glasses down the line.
So standalone, like the Oculus Go, Santa Cruz in the future, the Vive Focus that's about to come out, those kinds of things. So you're the developer, right? Or one of the developers?
I'm one of the developers, yes.
Okay. And you guys did this in what, Unity?
In Unity.
All right. So from a development point of view, what's your number one challenge when developing VR experiences that you think is a big challenge that other developers will encounter?
Well, I've worked in 3D for a long time, but I feel like VR is a very different experience that even if I used to work in 3D environments and 3D assets, but seeing it on a flat screen is very different from seeing it in a full-on virtual immersed environment. And one of the things that I think people have learned over the past 2 years is that you can't really translate the initial UI from a 2D interface to a 3D interface. You have to build everything natively, right? The old UI just no longer works.
Right.
So you have to really think about step into the player's shoes and build it from the ground up, what it's like to be inside a fully immersed experience instead of taking what you already know and trying to translate that.
So really that challenge is sort of unlearning everything you've learned.
Yes.
So in a sense, to get into VR, it's actually better to be a newbie, kind of?
In a way, I think it is, because you see everything with a very fresh pair of eyes.
Right.
You don't make any assumptions. You don't think this is what we've done before. And you don't assume that, I've worked in 3D before, I can just port that into VR and it'll work. Because seeing 3D objects or environments in 2D is very different from being immersed in it.
Right. Plus the fact that you don't want to escape that immersion. You want to make sure the user stays immersed there, right?
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of things that can break immersion. Traditional user interface elements can often take you out of that zone and break the fantasy. And it's important to kind of consider, can I use a physical object inside the world rather than a traditional 2D user interface to express to the player that this is an interactable object and that maintains the immersion without breaking the illusion.
Right. Now, how many in your team of development?
3 people.
3 people.
Uh-huh.
So you're an independent developer. You would consider yourself an indie developer, right?
Oh, we're a startup.
A startup.
Yeah.
Okay. How hard is it for a small team like that to actually create, because what you've done is great, to create this kind of experience? A lot of people are starting out and they're doing it sort of on the side instead of full time, right? What kind of tips can you give for that?
I can't overemphasize the importance of user experience. I think at the end of the day, you really have to pick your battles. So especially, there's so many things you can play with. We had to be really careful with feature creep because there's so many cool things we could do. But I think once we started beta testing with users, we realized this is such a brave new world. Most people are trying VR for the first time. You actually have to think really hard, what's the initial user experience like? How do I coach someone who has zero experience in VR through the experience and not make it scary? But what's helpful is that once you put yourself in the like, can I bring someone who's completely new VR and onboard them in 5 minutes or less?
Right.
And we use that as like a challenge for ourselves.
Sure.
So in the end, we ended up with a very smooth user experience and a set of constraints we can work with, especially since we have such a small team.
Right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all the tips. I really appreciate it. If people want to find out more about the game, go ahead and give them whatever you want.
Sure. We have a website. It's www.beastpets.com. It's not quite complete at this time, so if they have any questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to our team. Our email address is team@beastpets.com.
Are you on Steam yet?
We are on Steam, but not for direct download because this version is optimized for arcades. However, people are more than welcome to shoot us an email and request a beta key.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much, Vivian. Appreciate it. All right. I'm here with Lesley Klassen from Flipside, and just ran into you here. Just finished another interview, and you were telling me all about your cool animation VR program or application. Tell me, give me an overview of it.
So what we do is we simulate a television studio for making animated shows. So I come from a broadcasting background, so we brought things like teleprompters, slideshows, multi-camera tools, and then your ability to bring your own avatars and your own sets to build your own shows.
So bring in your own avatars, like from where? Do you connect like Poly or?
So yeah, what we can do is you can use Unity asset avatars. You can get avatars from Adobe Fuse. We support Adobe Fuse.
Okay.
Or Make Human, or Poly, or Sketchfab. And then if your avatars aren't rigged up and ready to move around,
right,
we just recommend you use Adobe Mixamo, and we can rig them up automatically.
I see.
And then we have a website backend that lets you upload all your avatars, and they just show up in virtual reality.
So once you set up your avatars in your studio, you're able to embody them?
Yes.
So if you have multiple avatars, how do you embody all of these? Or do you do one, you play the scene for one, then how do you do that?
So when we originally created our app, we had multiplayer working already.
Okay.
And what we did is it was only working on the Oculus platform, but we decided to just take it out, and we're rebuilding it right now to be cross-platform. So the final product is multiplayer, get your friends in and collaborate.
Okay.
So today what it is that you embody multiple avatars where you record one and then you record the second,
right,
in order to do more than one
But
person.
ultimately, you can get a group of avatars to embody all of them in different computers using Rift or Vive, and then you all act up your piece.
Yes.
Now you mentioned there's a teleprompter, so each of them can have a teleprompter with the script as well?
Yes, so what our backend tools let you add text to your teleprompter, YouTube links and things like that for a slideshow. We actually have some interactive props, like a pencil you can grab and draw in the air. So we provide all these production tools to help the performer inside the space when they're recording or acting, so they don't have to remember all their lines, or maybe they're doing a talk show, or maybe they're doing a performance.
And the viewers don't see the teleprompter.
Viewers don't see any of that kind of stuff.
Now, I know you're thinking entertainment, I'm thinking training. Huge market for that, which I'm sure you guys probably thought about that as well. So once you've embodied, can you create your studio, can you change it and be wherever you want to be? In other words, make up your own set?
Yeah, so the way it works for sets, and sometimes it sounds a little complicated, but it's much easier than it is. What we do is we make the creator use Unity itself, but you don't have to be a programmer, we do all that for you. And then any 3D asset that you can plunk into Unity can become a set. So anything you can imagine can become a set.
Then how do you upload that set? Through your website?
So yeah, exactly. Our website has tools, and you just load them in, and then when you get into VR, you'll have a set selector, and it'll pop up as a set, and you select it, and you're on that set.
And then you mentioned you can stream this, so you're streaming live. So you're trying to set this up for like live entertainment? Now, what about recording and exporting and then using it as flat video? So in other words, to be able to create animations for regular TV, film, whatever.
Sure. So I'll touch on the live quickly. So we're just actually implementing our Twitch chat right now. And then we use software like OBS Studio that does the streaming components. And so that just powers it to Twitch, and you can see your Twitch audience, so you can talk to them. So that's how you do the live stuff.
Sure.
The recorded stuff, we can record all of your positional data and all of the things that you do. So you hit record, you do your show.
Right.
And then what you do afterwards is you can come back and then you can choose all your different camera angles afterwards when you finished watching your recording back.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Or we have this thing in broadcasting terms called live to tape.
Right.
What it means is that you will be doing your show inside of VR, and if you have a second person that's sitting at the second screen, on the outside screen, they can do live camera edits while you're performing and go right to tape.
So this would be a person outside of VR. Your actors are in VR. Your below the line people are outside of VR.
Yeah, your production
basically.
assistant or your director or your camera switcher can be actually managing the camera shoot in real time while it's happening.
That's really cool. So who's your target market for this?
So we're actually interested in YouTubers, streamers, and actually there's this kind of interactive designer type that's technical enough to do some of the work but doesn't program.
Right.
So it's like the interactive or creative directors in that space as well.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned this app is for free right now?
It's for free right now. Yeah.
Okay, and it's on Steam VR?
It's on Steam VR and Oculus.
Oh, it's on both Oculus?
Yeah, on early access.
But it's already on early access out right now?
Yeah, we have a bunch of users, like I said, getting connected in our Discord channel, talking about things, sharing tutorials, and the community is building right now. We launched it just 2 months ago.
Now, are you one of the founders, one of the developers? What are you?
So I'm one of the co-founders. So there's 3 founders, and I'm the CEO.
Okay, got it. And how many developers do you have on this?
So we have actually a team of 6, 3 developers, and then 3 developers, and then the 3 founders. And the founders are actually another developer, an arts director, and myself, who's kind of product and sales and investment and all
everything
that
else.
jazz.
Yeah. So what's the number one challenge you feel for any company getting into VR?
It's surviving. We have to survive. The market's not taking up as, it's not growing as fast as we thought it would. However, we're past that hype cycle, which is so great, and we're actually starting to see natural growth in the market, and so it's just surviving that growth right now.
Right, definitely. All right, Lesley, if people want to get a hold of you or learn more about Flipside?
So Flipside can be downloaded at flipsidexr.com, and you can email me at leslie@flipsidexr.com.
Lesley, pleasure to meet you. I'm here with Cosmo Sharf, and you are the founder and creator of VRLA, or co-founder. Co-founder. You're also the co-founder of Mindshow, which we have a long podcast that we did with you, right? We talked a lot about it. So first of all, congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
It's, the turnout is really great.
Yeah.
I was here yesterday too, which is more focused on sort of the professionals.
Yeah, it's a little
bit
chill.
A little more chill, which is nice because it gives you a lot of time to check out everything.
Yeah.
So how's it going?
It's going really well. I'm happy with how everything's happening. It's great to see everyone out here on the second day of VRLA. First day was fun. You know, a little more chill, like I mentioned. But now everyone's here. It's great to see everyone.
So give a little overview of like what kind of companies are here.
Sure. There's a pretty wide variety of virtual reality and augmented reality companies. We got haptic technology, we got games, healthcare. We have virtual reality domes, 360 video projections,
pretty cool stuff.
Tons of cameras, robotics. We're standing right next to this 20-foot tall futuristic temple called Mecha.
Yeah, what is that? It's awesome.
Thank you. Well, Christian Fallstrup, one of our partners, had put this together in partnership with LACMA and a few other groups of people.
Okay.
And it's essentially envisioning a future where Mesoamerica continued and came into advanced technology.
Very deep.
Yeah.
So, number one, what do you think of the turnout? Number two, do you see this as the market right now? Do you see it growing a lot more? What's your thoughts on the VR in general?
That's a good question. So yeah, I am pleased with the turnout. We have thousands of people here. What's fun about VRLA is, with the first day we get a mix of professionals and people in the industry that are, trying to do business here. And then the second day we get more of the general public. So we really offer something for everyone. And yeah, I think, the VR industry is still evolving. It's, perhaps not as far along as people would hope, just because it's been so overhyped.
Right.
I think that has gotten away from us, and we really, or some people expected or had the false expectation of VR being this instant hit because when you do try it, it is a pretty phenomenal experience. Right? We have to remember kind of the limitations with it right now. Just like when cell phones first came around or computers first came around,
or the internet.
Exactly, and it took many years for it to evolve and grow and actually find the use cases that really help people. So we're still in the early phases, and it's really just a matter of the companies in it right now being able to survive until we really have those headsets that are cheaper, easier to use, more accessible, at a price point that is reasonable for the average person.
Right.
So we're kind of waiting for that to happen, and it takes time.
So clearly, gamers, they adopt VR without a problem.
Yeah.
Our early adopters,
Totally.
people in technology, they're into it.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to be that killer app? Like, for example, the mobile phone, what made it take off was communication, and I don't mean talking, but I'm talking about social media.
Right.
That's the thing, right? Everybody's on Facebook. What do you think is going to be that killer app?
Everyone's asking about that, and I come back to social platforms.
Yeah.
If you think of most of the apps that you can use most frequently on your phone, there are different ways of communicating with people, whether that's through email, text, Facebook, Instagram, different flavors of social networks.
Right.
And so we're starting to see that emerge with things like Altspace and Sansar and High Fidelity and other metaverses. It's not necessarily just about metaverses, right? We have Rec Room with social VR, gaming, that's super fun. So it'll be something that allows us to connect with people in new ways, but it's not just it's a combination of both that killer app, right, and also the hardware being at a point where it's really something like the Oculus Santa Cruz is the most promising look at a kind of device that can help propel VR into the mainstream in the way that we've all been wanting and imagining since early 2013 with the original DK1.
Well, speaking of hardware, let's talk a little bit for a minute about the Oculus Go. They just released it. What's your thought on the Go? Not so much today, what it is today, but what's your thought on that kind of market?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really exciting, and I'm so happy to see them producing this product at such a cheap price point. I shouldn't say cheap, let's say inexpensive.
Well, no, but it really is. It's a no-brainer price point.
Yeah, so I managed to try it very briefly yesterday, and it's very comfortable. Obviously it has its limitations.
Right.
It's no hand.
3D OF.
There's no hand-tracked controllers. But for what it is, for $199 with a 1440p display, and you can watch your videos and play some games. The controller is very comfortable.
Right.
It's at a point where it's okay, I'm interested in VR. This thing has decent reviews. I can do Netflix and Hulu. Why not, right? I think that's what Oculus is hoping to go. Will happen in people's minds.
Right.
So, is it the perfect VR headset? No, absolutely not. It's the first generation of this kind of standalone mobile virtual reality, but that is absolutely the future that we're all dreaming of, where we don't need to be connected to huge, expensive gaming PCs.
Right.
And ultimately, that will evolve into things like the Santa Cruz, where you have the hand-tracked controllers.
Right.
You have full, 6 degrees of freedom, and much higher degrees of immersive and interactivity that we expect with things like the Vive and the current Rift.
Exactly. I think the thing that blew my mind about the Oculus Go was the fact that I could put it on, press a button, and I'm inside.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
phenomenal.
can't say that about any other kind of headset. And I love the Rift, I love the Vive, but I mean, it's a no-brainer for people to use too.
Totally, and it's this really good point. The Rift and Vive provide incredible immersive experiences, but I often find myself just with a general kind of lack of interest sometimes in wanting to use them because you have to turn the PC on, you have to open Steam, you have to put it on, you have to get the headset on, you have to
unplug the cable because it doesn't recognize it.
There's often technical issues, and it just sometimes can be definitely a huge headache.
Right.
Regardless of how amazing the experience is, and not to mention the huge expensive gaming PC.
Exactly.
So, man, I mean, the Go is super exciting, and I'm, honestly, it'll be like the second or third generation where it'll be okay, that'll be the iPhone moment. I remember when the first iPhone came out, and that was so exciting, so mind-blowing, but it was something that was really only for kind of tech geeks and nerds, if you could afford it.
Right.
And then right around the time of iPhone 4, when we had the Retina display and that new design, and all the camera was significantly better, and all of a sudden you look around and everyone has this phone, and then from then on, the 5 and the 6 and the 7, it's like, okay, now smartphones are a thing, we have them, they've changed everything.
Right.
So I think we're going to start to see adoption like that in the next generations of the Go that offer more tracking and stuff.
Right. My mom is on her phone all the time. She's 85 years old, and she's on Facebook, and the day you can get VR on my mom
Totally.
or a person that age, that just, and that's why to me that Oculus Go, people, like you said, there are a lot of things they can improve on, but I don't look at it from that point of view.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from the point of view that anybody can pick it up and put it on and be in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, people tend to focus on the negatives.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, if you're in the VR industry, like, we're very attuned to specs and features.
Right.
When you see it for really just being the first stage of a much greater evolution of this kind of technology, and you see that path that I was excited about, years ago when I first saw the DK1, people were, I remember in the very early days, people dismissing that 720p display, and it's so blurry, and it makes me sick, and yeah, it did make people sick, but I was just stoked to see that this concept of putting you in an immersive, interactive world was even possible.
Right.
And I knew that it would improve, and it has, and the difference between that DK1 and what we have today in just 4 or 5 years is completely mind-blowing.
Right.
So we can imagine that we're going to expect to see that level of change, but probably even greater because of the accelerating rate of technology in a similar amount of time.
Right. I think if you're in this business, you shouldn't look at things as negative. You should look at them as challenges that we need to overcome. That's
Totally.
it.
There's a lot of challenges.
Yeah, but we're going to overcome them. We've done it with everything else.
Oh,
so.
of course.
Totally. All right, Cosmo, thank you so much. Great job on the show again. Appreciate it. You want to give URLs, anything you want to give out?
I mean, the show is over, but if you're curious about learning more about VRLA, you can go to virtualrealityla.com, and I'm also the co-founder of Mindshow, which allows you to create animated movies in virtual reality using your body and voice. It's currently free on Steam, so you can go download that and learn more at mindshow.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Cosmo.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, I'm here with Scott Martin of Martin Arts.
Yes.
And you are the creator of VR Planet X, and it's a VR experience. I just went through it. Maybe you can give us a quick overview.
Sure. This is a demo of it's a 4-minute demo of a VR story experience, and you are a time traveler going back in time, and your ship stops to recharge itself, and while it's recharging, you experience the life on the planet around you. The window panels open, and you get to see and witness the creatures and the environment around you. Once the story is over, you'll be able to go back into the environment and explore it and discover clues about the larger narrative.
Right, and so there are different parts, and those are each narratives, each storylines that you can choose by gazing into it.
Yes, ultimately I will have 7 different chapters, each around 10 minutes of an experience, of a story experience, and then you'll be able to return to that same environment to look around and discover clues about the larger story. The current plan is to offer 1 full chapter by the end of the year and have that on Steam and other VR stores.
Now currently it's not an interactive experience, it's passive. Are you planning on making it interactive?
Yes, I plan on making some interaction with hand controllers where you can grab a couple things and more look at gaze targets where you can discover clues about the environment. But it's a passive, relaxed story experience with life going on around you on the planet.
Now you're the developer of it.
Yes.
So let's talk about the development side of it, because that's my audience here.
Okay.
How long did it take you to create this?
This is about 4.5 to 5 months of work that spans
Full time.
I would say it's boiled down to about 4.5 months of work over a couple years.
Sure.
I'm also a VR developer in Culver City at Create VR.
Oh.
And yeah, you just met somebody that I work with. And in addition to working on Spider-Man Homecoming VR and Ghostbusters VR now hiring, I'm doing this on the side to offer a different kind of experience. My goal is to offer something passive and interesting, intriguing, something that people will enjoy.
Sure. Now, you made your own graphics, you mentioned to me,
Yes.
right? So you designed, are you a designer also?
Yes. So I designed the ship and the console. The console will come alive in the future where you'll be able to interact with some of the buttons.
Right.
And I also created the environment, modeled the characters, rigged the characters, animated the characters. The concept for the creature was done by Jamie Jones many years ago. And so the project actually started with me developing a 3D creature from a 2D concept. And then in my mind it came to life, and I began to gather ideas about how I could turn these different ideas into a larger story and offer it as an experience.
Did you storyboard this?
Some, yes.
Okay, you did. Do you recommend designers and developers to storyboard their VR experience prior to jumping in and doing it?
Absolutely. Don't worry about getting locked into a certain sequence, but it really, really helps get it out of your head and help you define your objectives and how much work's going to be involved with each scene. So yes. So
explain that storyboarding process, because VR is not linear. Well, in your case, it kind of is because, right, it's passive at this moment. But when you have interactions and the ability for the user to end up controlling where it goes, how do you storyboard that?
Well, I think that it starts with a solid design. To sit and brainstorm with your colleagues, or yourself for that matter, and try to lay out a general point by point of how your story will progress, a sort of an overall view. And then dig in and try to define the different cutscenes like you would do for a movie. Now, because it's a 360 sometimes, or it's an immersive environment,
right,
and not linear, like you said, I would just try to consider and take into consideration the different things that might happen that you want to do in the environment, and just list everything per scene. For me, it's a little easier because it's linear.
Right.
But as I have been working at Create, for instance, I find it very interesting to listen to how ideas go from people's heads and discussions into VR, because as all developers are aware, there's such a wide range of technical limitations.
Right.
The hardware's there and the software's there to push some amazing graphics, but you still have to know how to be very efficient, right, on all levels, and you have to know how to use the tools to discover where your performance bottlenecks are. And yeah, I think it starts with a solid design and vision, and then having the right team to implement the mechanics as well as the art.
Yeah, you mentioned tools. What tools do you work with?
In addition to Unreal Engine, I work with Autodesk 3D Studio Max and Pixelogic's ZBrush. Work with Substance Painter and Photoshop, among others.
Are you a developer as well, coding-wise?
As far as coding, no.
So you have somebody else do like the C# or C++ for Unreal?
Well, for this, it's actually using blueprints. So I was very fortunate to have the help of a colleague to help me with the menu setup. That's just not my area. So I would tell a programmer or an engineer what I need, and as they're developing it, guide them into creating the mechanics. So, so I've done the art, and I got some help with the menu setup.
I see. From a menu setup perspective, VR is totally different than your traditional flat screen game or whatever app, right? So in a flat screen, your UI is your UI. but in a VR experience, your UI should be really part of the content. In other words, it shouldn't take you out of the experience.
True.
You know, so what are your thoughts in that? Because you actually implement it as part of the experience. It's the dashboard of the spaceship that I'm in, right?
Yes. Yes, and although there's currently no interaction in this demo, I'm hoping to have controls for opening and closing the windows, getting more information about something that you see in the environment, controlling lights, and doing different things, even exiting the ship at some point.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree that a UI needs to be well integrated, and for me that goes back to the overall design and the vision. To offer a UI in a 3D immersive experience is a challenge. It's got to be comfortable.
Right.
Minority Report is something that comes to mind because I love how the different things that they did at the desks were spatialized and holographic and in front of you within reach and would disappear when you need it, appear when you need it.
Right. So do you feel that studying UI metaphors is extremely important, like in real life? And what I mean by that is when you the interface to opening a door is that knob, and it's part of reality. You know what to do. You don't need explanation. How do you transfer that into VR? Because that's really what we need, is that easy to understand knob for the door, where people don't need instructions. Does that make sense? The question?
Yes. You're triggering something I would like to share. As I have worked on, I think we're on my fourth different VR experience at Create and in my own. It's extremely important to make things super easy, because people get distracted by the immersion and they don't necessarily think to open that knob or grab that knob to open it. So little graphics that might pop up or objects that would highlight for a minute, but as long as that was within your design and the colors and the timing and the sounds all fit with your UI, then I think it's perfectly okay and necessary also to provide suggestions as to what to do step by step. And the gentleman that you met earlier has found that to be true multiple times as we're working out the details of how to offer an interface so somebody can get through the experience comfortably without wondering what to do next.
Yeah.
And yeah, the result is people need reminders, sometimes both audio and visual reminders to what to do next.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Scott, thank you so much for your time. Good luck with that experience. It's an awesome experience. If people want to find out more about the experience or they want to get a hold of you, give them whatever you want.
Sure. You can find out more about the project at martinarts.com/VR. You can read more about the story. I put a little information about myself on there, and if you'd like to get in touch, you'll see my email there.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I'm here with Jason Briggs from Mecha Mayhem.
Thank you.
You're the lead developer, right?
Yep.
Of that game. So give me an overview of what Mecha Mayhem is.
It is a mech game which is based on chaos and destruction.
Lots of destruction. I just went through it and I killed I don't know how many people.
Yep.
It was very satisfying, and I'm embarrassed to say that. I don't know why.
It's I think you killed about 1,200 people.
Was it? Oh my god. No, but the graphics are intense. They're really cool.
Thank you.
I really like them. Now you're the lead developer, right? So what did you
Lead programmer.
Or
Yep.
lead programmer. Okay. What did you guys use to create this?
This is in Unreal Engine.
So one of the things I've noticed, and we spoke prior to the podcast a little bit about this, is that I've noticed a lot when I'm looking at some games that are super high-end graphic-wise, like yours, it always tends to be like they made it in Unreal. So question for you, because I think you said you do both. You do both Unreal and Unity.
Yeah.
Is it a matter of the tool, like Unreal doing better graphics, or is it a matter of really the designer, and then it tends to be that Unreal designers are a bit higher end? And I'm not trying to insult anybody, put anybody down, but I'm trying to figure out, is it really the tool or is it really the designer?
I would say you're capable of getting, beautiful graphics in both engines.
Okay.
But with Unreal Engine, it seems to be out of the box easier to get good graphics.
I see. And can you expand that a little bit more? What do you mean by that? How is it easier?
there's more post-processing options out of the box. You can just click a box and you're good to go.
I see. So like adding lighting effects and particles and it's a little bit
everything's
easier.
very, very easy in Unreal Engine. And
where you could do the same thing in Unity, but it takes more work.
Yes, and Unity is a great engine, absolutely is. But some of those starting things, in high quality graphics,
right?
They might take more time.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, now you said you're a lead programmer. That means you do the coding.
Yes.
So if you're doing Unreal, you're C++.
Yeah, we use Blueprints and C++.
Explain what is Blueprints.
Blueprints is like a scripting language. It's all visually scripting, so you want to make an if statement, so you'll type in if, or you'll bring up what is called a branch, and you'll just see the two nodes come out of it that say true or false. You give it the condition.
So it's visual programming.
Yes, and it's very, very powerful. It's very fast to develop with it. I definitely recommend using it in some cases. If you need to do fast iterations, anything you're doing on a loop or similar, I recommend doing it in C++. Otherwise, you might want to consider Blueprints just because it's very fast to prototype.
And Blueprints will translate it into C++ for you?
In a way, I can't say I understand the whole back end of how that works. I believe it goes through like a virtual process where it makes a rough translation into C++.
I see.
There is another way where you can it's called nativization in Unreal Engine, where you do translate it into C++.
I see. And is this a plugin for?
It is natural. It's already in every version of Unreal Engine.
It's part of Unreal. I see. Okay, that makes sense. So you use that, but when you want to get in deeper, then you go into C++.
Yeah, C++ allows you more power, and you can get the task done. That basically anything you need to get done, you can do it in C++. But Unreal Engine, and the team at Epic have been doing a phenomenal job at growing the Blueprint system. And every update, it's better and better.
I see. From a programmer's point of view, what is the number one challenge you face every day in VR?
There's so many options for the user. The player can do so many things that you didn't think about because there's more freedom. So you don't know if they're going to, in this game, you don't know where they're going to be looking at any given time. You don't know how they're going to interact, or there's just so many more variables. And you have to you don't want to tell the player what to do, but you kind of want to guide them into an appropriate experience.
Right.
And that can definitely be very challenging.
Now, from a technical point of view, as a programmer, what is the biggest challenge? What's the biggest hurdle, technically speaking?
In VR?
In VR.
I wouldn't say it's that much different from programming in a normal game, yeah.
Right. So bringing in that 360 freedom of movement everywhere doesn't give you extra challenges as a programmer?
Not in a code sense, really.
Right.
I mean, maybe you're doing more, vector math, but you're really doing that in any game anyways.
Got it. So let's talk a little bit about QA from a programming point of view. I mean, how do you guys QA stuff?
For just to make sure everything's quality and
or even bugs, figuring out bugs and
lots of gameplay testing.
But are there automated tools? In traditional programming, you have automated tools that you can run scripts through. Is there anything like that for VR yet?
Not to my knowledge, if I'm understanding exactly what you mean. If you mean optimizations and stuff like that, then Unreal Engine has a very powerful, system for catching things that are not optimized well.
I see, cool. And how many people are in your team?
There is about 15 right now.
15?
Yeah.
And it's developers, designers mainly?
Yeah, it's mostly artists.
Artists, yeah. Right, because of the amount of images you need to create.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool. What's your advice for somebody that wants to get into VR development? Don't. No.
I'd say just jump in, make some things that are fun for you. Just make some small projects that are fun, simple. Definitely keep your scope small. Don't try to make the next massive multiplayer game that have. If you have too big of a scope, and I guess this really goes for any game, but especially in VR, if your scope's too big, you're not going to get it done. You need to make sure you work within the limitations of what you have.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. How long did it take you guys to make this game?
So it's been in development for about a year. However, it's really most of the development has been done in the last 3 months.
Got it.
Prior to that, it was asset building, just 3D modeling, stuff like that. Discussions about what we want from this game, and then we really started spending a lot of time developing in the last 3 months.
When is it going to be released on Steam?
I can't say that.
You don't know. Well, you don't know. You just can't say it.
I can't say it at this point.
You'll have to kill me later.
Yes.
If you do. I understand. Now I want to live. Okay, but it will be released on Steam. It's not out. We can say it's not out on Steam yet.
Yeah, it's not out on Steam yet.
Right. Okay.
We are expecting this year.
Right.
That's about as much as I can say.
That's about as much as I can say. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. If people want to find out more about the game or about you personally.
Yeah, you can. We have a website. It's Mecha Mayhem. Mecha with an A.
Right. We'll put it in the show notes. Great. All right, Jason. Great to meet you. Thank you very much. All right. I'm here with Ahsley and Brady, the creators of Rave Runner, right?
Right.
So here's Ahsley. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a licensed architect by trade, and I am now in the VR realm creating Rave Runner with my partner Brady.
You just made a jump to VR and
I made the leap. I was so excited to create some environments that were immediately experienced by people.
Yeah.
So we are now developing Rave Runner.
Which is a rhythm game, right? I just experienced it and I lost 15 pounds already.
Right. You look great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a dance rhythm game, and it takes you through environments that we've created for songs. So they're EDM songs right now. They're high, fast-paced rhythm songs,
right?
And you move to them to the choreography that I've created for each of the songs so far.
You created those songs?
We created the choreography for the songs. So they're popular songs like Zed and Skrillex. We're licensing all the songs.
Yeah, I was going to say. We'll talk a little bit about that, but let's get Brady to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Brady, also with Kinematic Studios.
Cool. And what's your role in
So
this?
I would say primarily engineer, also designer. So we co-design everything. We come up with all the
You guys are the
gameplay
team, right?
elements. Yeah, we are the core team. Yes.
The core team. That's very cool.
Yeah. So.
And then I know Ahsley will probably leave in just a second to go help the next round, right?
Yep, we got quite a line.
Yeah, we got a big line, so that's fine. So let's talk a little bit about the actual game. What did you create it in?
So it's created in Unity.
In Unity, okay.
And we're supporting all major tethered headsets. We'd love to do untethered headsets when the technology gets to the point that it supports the kind of gameplay mechanics that we need.
Right. So you're a programmer as well?
Yes.
I'm assuming you use C#?
Yes, C#. Yeah.
What was the process like for you coming up with this game, creating it? Guide us through that workflow.
So it all started with the inspiration of a particular song that we were listening to, and we were sitting and thinking, like, what does this make us feel? What do we want to do? So we came up with the concept of this kind of sense of forward motion, and moving your arms and your hands and head to different targets, so that you feel like that you have this really great full body movement and really feel the song in your body. So we just began developing in Unity, and we had a prototype together a pretty short amount of time, and we've also been authoring environments for that. So we had to create some tools for
how to lay out the environments in the game engine, as well as creating tools for the creation of the choreography, which is a pretty core thing. We've actually invested a lot of time in the content creation tools for the game.
When you say you created tools, you mean tools that you use those tools to create that dance moves?
Yes. So we have tools that run in the Unity editor for the creation of the environments, and then for the choreography, we're actually making in-game tools.
Right.
So it's a series of tools where you're actually moving through the environment, and then you move your hands and pull the triggers to lay down where you want the different gems to be in the environment. So.
Now I'm assuming you're using this internally only, but I'm assuming you probably will release it later on so people can create their own tools.
Yes, the plan is to make it user-facing, and then players will actually be able to create their own moves and share them with each other. So.
Right. Yeah. You're not out yet. Your game is not out yet.
Correct.
And do any plans of when it'll be out?
We're aiming for end of this year. We can't make any promises right now. It's depending on a lot of different things, because we are licensing the music, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into that.
Right. Who's doing the licensing? Is it
we actually do.
Ahsley is taking care of that.
Well, we have an agent here in LA who has, I think, something like 20 years of experience in the music licensing industry. So she's very familiar with the landscape there, and is really doing a really great job contacting all the people who you need to contact. It's a big job.
Yeah. And they're very open to this?
Yeah, I mean, she's been the one doing the negotiations, so I don't know how much resistance there's been, but it seems like it's been going pretty well.
Right. So what would you, from a development perspective, from a developer perspective, what's the biggest challenge that you face when creating a game, a VR game specifically?
Oh man.
Or a VR experience in general?
Yeah, I would say it's hard to pick one, but if I had to pick one...
So there's many challenges.
Oh yeah. I would say deciding how to signal intent to the player, what it is you want the player to do, and you have to iterate over and over and over again. So you have to really get your design out in front of playtesters, so that you see how they're responding to kind of the prompts that you've created, and you'll be surprised a lot of the time at how people read certain cues that you're trying to set up.
Right.
And it's it can be a real challenge.
Yeah. So Ahsley just stepped in because he needed to step away. There was something to fix, so that's fine. We were talking about the biggest challenges from a developer perspective from VR. So what about from you? Because you're not a developer, but you are more of the designer, right?
And now I am.
Now you are, right? Exactly. So what would you think is one of the biggest challenges you ran into when developing a VR game?
Well, what's really interesting is all the playtesting we're able to do, which is so interesting to me, coming from architecture, where you don't get to playtest, and it's not as iterative. Now you can immediately see what is intuitive and what isn't.
Right.
So you watch people, how they would play it, and you try to guess what they would find, intuitive or not. And you try to think how you would think in it, but that's not always the case. And then you get 9 times out of 10 people get it, and then that one where you never expect it. And it's cool because you can just iterate until it's perfect. And you're not going to capture everybody, but it is such a cool experience when people finally do get it, and you get it right,
So it sounds like developing a VR game, specifically like a rhythm game, but in general a VR game, you can't do it in a silo. You really have to involve the community that you're going after.
Absolutely.
To understand, right? Because UI seems to be the big issue of how do you create the UI that's intuitive enough where people get it without having tons of instructions.
Right, and that's been interesting for me too, because I actually don't have much of a background playing games growing up. So what might
Which is probably a positive if you think about it.
What might be intuitive for a bunch of gamers using controls they're used to is not for me, because I'm not a gamer. And we're finding that a lot of people coming to VR aren't necessarily gamers either. You know, my friends and family, my parents are playing this and they didn't grow up playing Nintendo. So the controllers, the switches, when we say trigger, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
So developing a UI that actually has a tutorial built into it and shows you is interesting. And we're trying to play with different ways to show that, like grabbing something, you have to tell them, use your index finger and pull that button, and then you see your hand actually move in VR. That's something that I think is new to gaming, because you just don't get that on
They're used to the keyboard.
a traditional, Yeah,
exactly.
and then building an immersive environment to do that in. So the tutorial doesn't necessarily have text, you know, it just shows you where you want to go by some sort of visuals, and we're talking about different affordances for the design of the objects that you actually control and what's comfortable in VR. Like turning something or cranking a dial is strange with all of the barriers you have to put in place creating the actual objects in virtual reality, but you don't feel that resistance virtually.
Right.
So then maybe it's more comfortable just pointing your finger to push a button.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the way I see it is like, and I've played a lot of experiences, and they seem to be bringing in a lot of the traditional 2D stuff into VR, and that doesn't work in VR.
It doesn't translate.
Because VR is really like real life. It's like, for me, to open a door, I turn the knob. I don't need instructions on how to turn the knob. It's intuitive, you know, you turn it, you push, you know, and it works. And I think we have to do the same thing in VR.
Right.
Yeah, so what's your take on that?
It's interesting coming from, again, an architectural background. I'm always thinking of the different pieces and how they work in real life. And so it's a mix of creating the actual object on all sides, but then being efficient with the technology, because you don't necessarily have to render the backside of things if it's not an animate object that you're going to move and pick up.
Sure.
So it's almost like set design mixed with interactive pieces.
Yeah.
But then those design of those pieces is really important, and then it's how you use your virtual hands.
Right.
And then the haptic feedback so you can feel it. Yeah, it's still a learning process for me.
I know, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. All right, Ahsley, if people want to check out Rave Runner, where should they go?
It should be out in public, at least in an early access version, in the next month. We're pushing for.
All right.
And then full access, the full first publish around September.
Okay.
And it'll be on the Windows Store and on Steam. It's designed for multiple headsets.
For all the headsets.
Yeah.
And do you have a website?
Kinemotic.com. Kinemotik.
I love that name. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Okay, I'm here with Peter Funkuchen from Prosper XR. I wanted to make sure I got that right.
Yeah.
But we started talking because you are sort of helping and representing the XR Alliance competition, right?
That's correct.
So let's start out with real quick, what is Prosper XR? What do you do?
Prosper XR does the full production process, everything from filming through post-production. We have a robotics specialty, so we have these robotic filming dollies, 3 of them, that help you capture moving 360 shots. And we have one that's specialized for high speed. We have one that's specialized for omnidirectional motion, so it can strafe left and right. It moves up and down with linear actuators for rising and dipping shots. And we have a 3rd one that works on terrain sort of environments like grass or gravel or sand.
Got it. Cool. Now, what's your involvement with the XR Alliance?
So we are one of the tech companies that is participating in the XR Alliance competition. The XR Alliance competition is about bringing talented storytellers into our space, that is, you know, the VR, XR, AR sort of space. So we're looking for people who know how to tell a good story, have a great story to tell, but are either intimidated by the technology, simply don't know anything about it, maybe they can't afford it, or in any other way they have a barrier in between themselves and this sort of arena of technology.
Right.
So the idea is to get as many of these storytellers as possible to submit story ideas to us, and we're looking for any kind of story from any kind of person. They're anonymous submissions, so we have a panel of readers, 60 readers who are industry veterans in the film and VR industries, that will go through and vet all those story ideas and invite a certain number of them to come develop those ideas with companies like us that have all of the tech to bring those ideas and make them real. So we really just want to encourage people to get creative and bring us stories that really benefit from this sort of technology, immersive technology. And the storyteller maintains control of their story and we
ownership. Yeah. So when you say stories, are we talking about 360 video, or are we talking about 360 full VR, like, full interactive experiences, those kinds of stories as well?
We're talking all of the above. The idea
so
here is
VR games, VR experiences, cinematic VR, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so we are mainly looking for visual experiences that are communicable on a mass scale that people can enjoy on their own in a VR headset or in a theater opportunity or anything like that. But we're not interested in limiting the creatives here. We want people to come to us with crazy ideas. Yeah. We want all of it across the spectrum.
Right. So then how do you help them? Once you pick them, how do you help them? What kind of help do you offer?
So we bring them into a development lab where we just link the creatives up with the technologists and say, this is what we would need to build to get that idea into a visual space for people to consume. And then we help them build it. So if that means using our robotic filming dollies to get a first-person perspective of someone walking through a crowd, we'll do that. Whatever it takes, we'll link you up with the company and kind of make it happen if there's a company participating that can do that for you.
Got it. Now you may know this or you may not, and that's fine too, but what about the funding portion? So if I come up with an idea and you hook me up with the companies, right? Who funds this project?
Right. So the idea is to basically, there will be cash prizes, by the way, or other prizes that are yet to be announced. Submissions open, by the way, in 2 weeks. So we're still pre-opening, so to speak. The funding is basically not a huge issue because we're looking to produce, I think, samples to bring in front of this panel. So it's a two-phase sort of competition. There's the initial pool that gets vetted by that team of industry readers, and then after you get through that and you get into the development lab, we build a little sample, and then we take those samples, and that's where the competition really heats up. The samples go in front of a panel of judges who are from all across the industry, big players. I think Wright is on there, Within, Microsoft is on there as well. And all of these projects will go in front of these big companies that can pick the project up and give it wings. So the idea is to produce a nidus, a nugget that you can bring to the competition,
a prototype,
and to sell.
And the prototype is funded by the competition, I guess. If you're picked, you don't have to worry about getting the money.
I believe so.
That's where I'm getting.
It's a detail I'd like to verify with the organizers.
Sure. And that's fine. If you didn't, we won't hold it to it. Yeah, we won't hold you to it. But it sounds like it would be like that. But if not, then it isn't. Okay, no big deal. If people want to learn more about your company first, and then we'll do the XR experience.
Sure. So Prosper XR, you can find us online. We're at prosperxr.com or prospervr.com.
Okay.
And also the XR Alliance has a website, which is thexralliance.com. thexralliance.com.
All right.
And we will have submission forms open in about 2 weeks from today. And from
Are you one of the judges?
I am not one of the judges. So we are participating on the tech side, which means we don't want to bias anything. We don't want to inject our opinion into who's a good storyteller. We let that panel of industry veterans do that.
Sure, that makes sense. All right. Well, Peter, pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed my interviews at VRLA 2018. If you did, please remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and like us on iTunes or SoundCloud. For more episodes, check out howtocreatevr.com/iTunes or howtocreatevr.com/SoundCloud. If you are ever in the Southern California area, we have a monthly meetup with lots of great presentations. You can join or RSVP for our next meetup at howtocreatevr.com/meetup. Finally, if you are interested in learning more about how to create VR experiences, please visit howtocreatevr.com. So until the next episode, I'm your host, Marcelo Lewin. Cheers, everyone.